I had a lot of arrangements and relationships where the balance was off and where I had entered into those agreements and those relationships from not my highest vision for my own self. And so I was trying to renegotiate a lot of the relationships in my life so that I could make space for my truest self and prioritize myself. And that was the work I was doing with Girl Trek, and it is the work that I'm doing with Girl Trek. But I had a lot of other things that I had to unpack before I could like connect with it deeply for myself.
Welcome to the Unlock Your Life podcast, a podcast for highly successful, visionary women who want more out of life. If you feel that ache of unfulfillment in your soul, you're in the right place, sis. Join Life Mastery consultant Lori A. Harris as she teaches you how to stop living for others and finally put yourself first. Let's dive into today's show.
What happens when a mission-driven leader who's already changing the world realizes she's been betraying herself? When the woman helping over 1 million Black women find healing through walking discovers that she needs to save her own life first. I'm Lori Harris, Integrative Change Coach and Life Mastery Consultant, and I'm your host of the Unlock Your Life podcast with Lori Harris. Today's conversation is with Vanessa Renae of Girl Trek, one of the largest public health movements in North America. We're not just here to talk about her organizational success. We're here to talk about what happens when you apply that same courage that you use to serve others to the scariest place of all, your own life. Vanessa came to me in a coaching program during a turbulent time. She was considering divorce and at a crossroads, asking herself the question that many high-achieving women whisper in the dark. I've built all this. I've helped all these people, but am I allowed to want more for myself? What you're about to hear is a conversation about radical truth-telling, radical self-loyalty, about the moment you stop asking permission to save your own life. We'll talk about how personal transformation isn't separate from our mission work. It's not separate from the vision of serving others. It's actually the fuel that makes the mission possible. It makes it sustainable. If you've ever felt like you're holding it together for everyone else while falling apart inside, if you've ever wondered what wanting more is, and if that makes you ungrateful for what you already have, if you've been waiting for permission to put yourself first, then this conversation is for you. Let's go. Good morning. Today we are with a very special guest, my friend and former client, Miss Vanessa Renae. Vanessa Renae is known as the co-founder of Girl Trek, the largest public health organization dedicated to the health of Black women. A couple of decades ago, almost 2 decades ago, Vanessa and her best friend, Morgan Dixon, decided that they were going to do something about the public health crisis that then existed in the Black women's community. And they looked around, they said, we are seeing people that we love leave this earth far too early. There must be something we can do about it. And following in the tradition of Harriet Tubman, they did what they could from where they are with what they had. And I'm a proud member of the Girl Trek tradition and the Girl Trek community. I'm so happy and grateful to call Vanessa my friend. And Vanessa has agreed to come on the Unlock Your Life podcast here with Lori Harris. I'm so happy to have you here. Welcome. Welcome, Vanessa. Tell us, how are you today?
I'm good. We're recording this on what I consider a special day because it's January 11th. And so if you do the math on that, it's 1, 1. And then if you collapse 2026 into 1. And so it feels like I just believe in numerology and it just feels like a special day. And it's Sunday and it's the Sabbath. And I get to be here talking with you. So I'm feeling good.
Well, thank you. It's really special. You know, you're a very special person for me and in my life, and you've made such a big difference for me overall. I've been in the Girl Trek community for almost a decade now. And I'm so glad that I made that decision because it's really helped me. And you'll recall that when we first met, it was in Colorado, and we were in the relaxation tent for the stress protest. And you said, "So tell me about yourself. What do you do?" And with the tiniest of voice, I said, "I coach." You're like, "Really? Tell me more." And we followed up, and now, several years later, we're good friends. So I'm so grateful that you asked me that question and that I followed up.
Lori, I tell people that story all the time about the time that we met because the context of it is very, very important. We were at a major event that I was helping to co-produce. There were maybe almost 1,000 women who were there. We were there ourselves to hold space for those women to experience a profound level of healing and to connect with the movement. And as one of the leaders, I was in one of the deepest, darkest times of my own life, struggling to figure out how do I bring healing to myself, struggling to figure out how do I honor that deep inner voice inside of me that was telling me that there was something different and something more for me. And I didn't even know where to orient myself. And I literally took a break from the event. I was sitting outside on that in the tent. I was myself trying to just like rally to get the resources, internal resources to show up with authenticity, which was very important to me. And spirit spoke to me and said, move, like that you can talk to this woman, that there's a conversation to be had. And even though I was there to hold the space, you were the teacher in that moment in our conversation because you were authentically telling me about your own life and your own journey and your own marriage and all of these different things. And I just remember it hit me so deeply because I had had such skepticism about life coaches. First of all, I was just like, anybody who want to be a life coach need a life coach. Like that was where my attitude was. And I just was ignorant to a lot of different things. But man, just the way you honestly were talking about your own self and your own light. And so there was just something that said, follow up, follow up, follow up. And I just remember like thinking about it on the plane, thinking about it when I got home and intentionally following up with you, which is then once we started our engagement and our relationship together. But it started in a moment where I just was like, how do I even do this work authentically? I don't know how to do it. And I'm sitting here at this place trying to do it. And then there you were.
Well, thank you. I feel deeply honored because you eventually did tell me about your skepticism about coaching. And that was after we had been doing it for a while. And I was so surprised. But thank you for being able to see me. And thank you for your ability to give voice to the feelings that you were experiencing at that time. I think that that's part of what happens in a coaching relationship, that when people can show up with authenticity and honesty, then we can get involved in the inquiry of what's really going on. And I know that you know that I believe that there's only one thing happening at any given time, and that is divine spirit expressing itself here, now, and in every place. And what I love to do is to celebrate the oneness of life, the oneness that exists between all of us as beings that have been created by spirit. And so for you to be able to say that later, when in fact I was feeling all of the same things and that we were in union with one another. And all we're trying to do really is bring forth more love in the world.
Mhm.
And I deeply feel that whenever I'm in community, in the Girl Trek community, and when I'm with you in particular. And as I get older, I tell people that I'm just returning back to my original self, which is little 3 and 4-year-old Lori, who just really loves to love people. It's my very favorite thing. Now, when we were in a coaching relationship, you and I, you know, that one of the things that I love to ground ourselves in all of our sessions in gratitude. And I think that that's one of the things that has been instrumental in my coaching practice and in my life overall.
Mhm.
Can you tell me, did you find that grounding the sessions in gratitude had an impact on you And were you able to do anything with that going forward?
That's a good question. I feel like yes, for sure, because I think at that moment, that time and season in my life, my inclination was to have a lot of pity party for myself. I was going through a lot of struggle. I had a lot of challenges that I wanted to talk about. I always wanted to get on and be like, let me tell you about this, let me tell you about that. And the grounding and the gratitude just helped to give perspective and helped to widen the aperture and helped to connect me back to my body. And from that place, it immediately oriented me to a conversation where I could even engage in what was possible instead of what was going on. So I always loved grounding the sessions in gratitude. And I would say, I mean, so many things carry over from our sessions together, and gratitude is definitely one of them. Yeah.
What else would you love to share about what was going on with you before, and what would you say about your after?
I didn't even know all the things that were going on with me before, but I had probably just turned 40. I had maybe just came off of the mountain at Kilimanjaro, which is what I did for my 40th birthday. I was entering a decade of work as a co-founder and leader of this movement. We were approaching this major milestone around this vision that we had to organize 1 million women. So I was grappling with the responsibilities that came with that, with the frontline work that comes with healing work that we all do. I was in an almost 19-year marriage that I was not satisfied or happy with. And then just in general throughout my life, which is something I couldn't have articulated at the time, I had a lot of arrangements and relationships where the balance was off and where I had entered into those agreements and those relationships from not my highest vision for my own self. And so I was trying to renegotiate a lot of the relationships in my life so that I could make space for my truest self and prioritize myself. And that was the work I was doing with Girl Trek, and it is the work that I'm doing with Girl Trek. But I had a lot of other things that I had to unpack before I could like connect with it deeply for myself.
Okay, we're going to stop here for a second and take a quick break. But before you do, I want to sit with something that Vanessa just said. I had to give myself permission to go deep. So many of us are skimming the surface of our own lives. We're checking the boxes. We're achieving our goals. We're serving others. But we're not going deep to what we actually want, what we actually need, what actually lights us up from the inside. What you're hearing in this conversation is I had to give myself permission to go deep. So many of us are skimming the surface of our own lives. We're checking boxes, achieving goals, serving others, but we're not going deep into what we actually want, what we actually need, what would actually light us up from the inside. If you're hearing this conversation and it's resonating and you're thinking, I want that kind of transformation in your life, then I want you to know this. This is the work that we do. This is what's possible when you stop betraying yourself and you start building a life that you don't need to escape from, that you don't need a vacation from, but a life that you are excited to live every day. I'm currently enrolling my next cohort for group coaching, and I'm accepting a few VIP clients. The link is in the show notes, or you can visit laurieaharris.com and click on the link for a clarity session. Learn more about what it's like to work together, to work for yourself, to work on the things that you would actually love. To tap in, what would you love? Because here's the truth. Your life isn't over there. It isn't around the corner. It's available to you right now when you're willing to ask yourself the question that Vanessa learned to ask herself. What would I love? Now let's get back to that conversation. Okay, and what would you say is the principal tool that you were working with? I know that we were working, eventually we graduated to being able to explore more about the power of awareness, the power of decision.
Yeah.
There's work that has to be done first to prepare for that. And so I know that my goal in working with the clients is to create an environment where they are awake to what's going on with them and for them and what they would absolutely love,
Mhm.
and aware of that for longer and longer periods of time. And so we work toward creating that environment, right? But it all starts with creating a vision and thinking about, if it all worked out, what would I love?
Mhm.
What was your first steps in thinking about, well, what is it? And what would I love to all work out?
I'm chuckling because I can recall that I was a very bad student and that I could not get my vision down. And you were just like, just get the vision down. Just think about the vision. Just what would you love? Just answer the question. It was the hardest part of the work for me. It was where most of all of the blocks were because I could not conceive of nor throw myself into the exercise of answering what would I love without first like, going through the list of what the obstacles would be to get it, the reasons why I didn't deserve it, why it wasn't going to be possible. And so I was always editing myself. And so the idea of what you were saying, which is like, get what you love down on paper for me, I would sit down and I would write some stuff, but even for myself, like, and this is in the privacy of my own home, in the privacy of my own journal and notebook. It's nobody else looking. You would be like, you don't even got to share it with me, but just do it. It was a me and a me thing where I was like, Vanessa, you know you would love more. Why aren't you giving yourself the permission to say that? You know you would love different things. And it was hard because if the foundation is shaky, you can't build from there. So at the foundation of what would I love, I couldn't admit what I would really love. Then all of the other things I was saying that I would love in these all sectors of my life, they were kind of not as true or not as potent as they could be. So for me, the work around worthiness that we did, the work around understanding that my crown had already been bought and paid for. That was my language, but it's just like James Baldwin's language. But it's just like I had a lot of work to do around that part of it. And then that second step of then releasing what it is that I wanted and just trusting it. And so I had to just do that work, Lori. And it took a lot of repetition. It took a lot of maybe 10 notebooks. It maybe took 10 notebooks of scratching stuff out, writing stuff out, throwing the whole notebook out because I was like, that energy isn't even right. I know that wasn't right. And the discipline of continuing to come back to it, which was the accountability that I had through our work together, which was like, I would have just let it go. Trust me. I would have not had so much discipline to keep writing my vision over and over again and asking myself, but we had the structure of working together and it just pulled it out of me.
That's very interesting because as a leader, you're constantly pouring out, pouring out, pouring out to other people. But your effectiveness is going to be more authentic for yourself when
Mhm.
you're being true to yourself.
Mhm.
Would you agree with that?
Yes, very, very much so. And I will say that I don't want to get too woo-woo, but I didn't even like know myself to know my true self. You know what I'm saying? It's like to be true to yourself. It's like, but what self? Is it the mask self that you've been presenting to everybody? Is it the self that, it has all the protection gear on? And so I really had a lot of work to do to even just say there is an identity that I have that is truer than what I have expressed. And I can have and once I aligned my own internal vision with that person who I was on the outside, then I could speak from more truthfulness for myself.
We work in those four quadrants, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And there is a part of you that can be very focused on the third quadrant, which is vocation, just like pour, pour, pour into vocation. And you have a public persona. People
Yeah.
know you as a certain thing, but there are these other three quadrants:
Mhm.
love and relationships,
Yeah.
wellness and love and relationships, health and well-being,
Mhm.
and
Time, money,
vocation
freedom.
and time,
No.
money, freedom, right? And I always tell you, it's like, well, when you have all four of those things, then you have a life.
Yeah.
And you don't have to focus just on this one quadrant,
Mhm.
vocation. We're dealing with the example of Harriet Tubman, right? And Harriet's like, When you do for yourself, then you can go back and get another sister, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, there's that. That's true.
Mhm.
However, we forget that Harriet was just a girl in love with a boy who wanted to have more freedom. And so
That's
she had a four quadrant vision for her life as well.
mhm.
And so stepping into a four quadrant vision for your life, you were very clear about what was a not it, like all the things that you didn't like.
Mhm.
As you move toward love in relationships and loving yourself more and establishing worthiness, what was your first step? It's like, well, maybe.
Mhm.
Can you give me that?
Yeah. Well, I had to work on the love quadrant because my marriage was such a big part of like what I thought needed to change in my life. And it was an area that I thought had the least ability to be changed, honestly. I just thought, I'm in this marriage. I have committed to this marriage. We almost 19 years into this marriage, and this is what it is. And I can recall that like I would work in the other quadrants and I would have like this what would I love vision. But in that quadrant, I would never put what would I love because what I would love was to get a divorce. And I didn't want to say that out loud. And so it took maybe a one whole year, I feel like, of us working together before I was able to, in that quadrant, say, what would I love is to not be in this relationship right here. And if I weren't in this relationship, this would impact every other one of the quadrants. It would impact so many of the other things in ways that I knew and even didn't understand. But in that quadrant, I really had to make changes. And that was hard because on the surface level assessment, that was probably the quadrant that seemed like it was most together. So it was like, you got a man. It's decent enough. It ain't, he wasn't abusive to me. He wasn't all these things. Like I had a relationship that could have worked in some ways. And so I was just like, do I blow this all up over here? And I'm trying to do this job and all these other things. But really, that was where for me, I had to make the very first move to say, I would really love something different than I have here, even though it seems like this is a quadrant that I don't need to work on as much.
So good on paper wasn't really working for you.
Hmm.
And this feeling of this is set. I don't need to blow this up because this is set.
Yeah.
So when we think about allowing yourself to have the awareness of it's actually not set
Yeah.
and everything else is not stable because this isn't stable.
Hmm.
That's a radical truth.
Yes.
Getting to a radical truth can be scary.
Yes.
How did you navigate that? What was part of your experience that made it safe for you to discover that you would be safe if you made the move?
Mm. I think it was genuinely the time and the vision. It was the discipline that I had set up. We were meeting weekly, a weekly Monday meeting together, the discipline to say every single week I'm going to spend some time actually writing in the morning times, do my morning pages, wake up, put my thoughts down. And that was probably like the first time in my life where I was giving myself permission to like say, what are your emotions? What do you feel? Like, don't filter those things. Like, and so many things are coming up. Write them down, read what you write, talk about it with Lori, like all of the different things. So it was the habit of actually prioritizing my own self with enough time and having the tools of the quadrants and the writing and a coach and all of those things. And just over time, honestly, my own consciousness just started to grow and my confidence started to grow as my consciousness started to grow. And my consciousness started to grow when for me the a lot about the power of awareness was about awakening to like the power of God inside of me, and it was about really connecting with my own divinity in a way that I had not before. And so once I started to tap into this what I feel like was a more supernatural spiritual understanding of like who I was and what I had the power to do with my mind, with my thoughts, with my imagination, what creativity really meant. Once I really started to understand those things, then I just started to grow and my world started to expand and I started to feel, I don't know if I felt safe. I don't know if I felt safe even until after I made the decision. Like even when I made the decision, even when I shared the news with him, I was like, wow, I'm having an out of body experience. Is this thing happening? Is this actually happening? Is this me saying these words? So sometimes it's like when you say you don't know where your help's gonna come from, but it's gonna come from the hills. Like that's how like the real actual moments were. But I know that I was able to build up the capacity to hold that moment and all the uncomfortableness and have the difficult conversation and say the things and believe in myself because I believe that God was just directly pouring into me and telling me that you're my child and I have something bigger for you in store.
So, what I hear you saying is that initially you had all of your attention on this marriage and this is what is wrong, and that person, if this person wasn't here, then
Hmm.
I could be better in all these other aspects of my life.
Hmm.
And over time, you spent more time
Hmm.
with inquiry within yourself, asking yourself questions, responding to those questions. And so it became, tell me if I'm wrong. It was the structure of the questions, coming back to the questions over and over and over again with
That's right.
yourself. And so
Yes,
it
that's
had very
exactly
little
right.
to do with a person, and it was more of an
Yeah.
inquiry with yourself.
That's exactly right, Lori. And the number one thing I try to tell people about, like, because maybe this, I got actually, it's been like 5 years now since I got divorced. There was so much grief and so much judgment of myself and so much, how could you not have gotten to this understanding earlier? How could you have not like understood this earlier? How could you have not made better choices for yourself earlier? How could you not have protected yourself earlier? Like there were all of these things, and it was really I had to call all my power back to just be like, it was never him. It was never him saying, telling me I needed to stay. It was never him telling me I had to endure. It was never him telling me to put up with it. It was me. And that was a hard thing for me to like grapple with, but also it was the most liberating thing because then I was like, well, dang, if it was you all along, then it could be you right now in this moment. And then if it's you right now in this moment, it could be you always. And from that level of understanding the actual power that I had over my life, I've been just living from a much more liberated place ever since because it's never anybody else. It's never anybody else who has the ability to change the weather in my own life. It's really just me and what I'm tuned into.
Well, I love that because then you're coming back to what I hear you saying is I'm coming back to my own awareness of the things that I have believed for others. I can
Hmm.
believe for myself. So I
Yeah.
tell my community, never ask permission to save your own life.
Yes.
And I can do that for myself. And I can see it in all areas of my life, including this first quadrant, love and relationships.
That's
So
right.
oftentimes people will find that they don't have to do all four quadrants at one time. If
Hmm.
they focus on one quadrant, other quadrants seem to just kind of fall into place. What was your
Hmm.
experience with that?
Um, I think that's true. I
Okay.
think it's true. Yeah. I mean, I'm a Virgo, so I like to try to multitask. So I'm like, how am I gonna do all these things at one time? But we have to give ourselves permission to go deep. Do you know what I'm saying? To go deep on something. And so I found that, like, yeah, once I gave myself permission to go deep in this love space, then it really impacted how I thought about time, money, freedom, because all of that had been tied into my thoughts about love so much. And then that really impacted my vocation in many, many ways, including like I was like, how are you gonna get out here and make this money for yourself? Because you was depending on this marriage in many, many ways. And so I do find that to be true.
Okay. And tell me now that you're on the other side of that was your before, what does your after look like?
This is what it looks like right now. This is what Lori Harris always told me, and I'm living in the life of my dreams. And every single day, it doesn't necessarily look dreamy or feel dreamy, but it is dreamy. This is what it looks like right now. It is like one of the most powerful tools you ever taught me, Lori. I tell it to myself all of the time. My best life is not over there. It's not around the corner. It's not coming another time. I'm living it in this moment. And right now, that looks like for me radical commitment to not betraying myself. It's like it is my never ask permission to save my own life. And it's like, how do I know I'm doing that? I don't feel like I'm betraying myself. Like, I feel like if I'm uncomfortable, I say it. If I need something, I ask for it. If I want to do something, I do it. Like, I really honor my intuition and my needs in a really powerful way that I'm just really, really proud of. And then I really still do the work. So I still have a regular daily practice of laying down at night and reviewing the day, which is something that you taught me and going backwards. I still live in the four quadrants and do regular check-ins on those quadrants and to say, like, what would I love? I ask my exact self that question all of the time, write it at the top of my journal, answer what would I love? And I don't have those same guardrails that I used to have on, like, what would I love if I had this thing, this thing? I don't ask myself those things. And it's helped me to manifest a new love that's just really beautiful and really edifying to me. It's helped me to change the dynamics of many of my relationships in my life in a way that feels really good to me and has made many of those relationships more sustainable and has made some relationships fall off, but it means I'm in real community in a way that I feel really authentic about. And then it's also made me very aware of when I am falling back into old patterns, when I'm putting on the mask, when I'm in self-doubt, when I'm not like living from a place of like worth, when I'm thinking I have to work harder to deserve it. Like I can really notice those things a lot. And I can't always stop the train from leaving the tracks, but I can slow the train down and I can get off the train when I am in those positions.
Well, that's what I love because I do hear you kind of articulating back some of the main principles of noticing what you're noticing,
Yeah.
remembering the power of a question, and in playing with that. What would I love? Now, my experience is that, well, it's normal for me to be in constant conversation with myself because
Mm,
now I'm working harder at noticing. And it
mhm,
sounds like that's what's happening for you, that you are not just letting things float through your mind and acting on things from a place of a lack of awareness,
mhm,
but noticing and then saying, hey, do I want that or do I not want that?
mhm,
I sometimes say to people when I'm like, even just working with a contractor, well, what I would love is
mhm.
da 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 da.
Yeah.
And my experience with that is it elevates the conversation because people are like, well, you know, I want to do what you would love. Tell me more about what you would love. How is
Yeah.
that for you?
It's the same. It's the same. I'm always asking myself what would I love, and I'm always in the smallest, by the way, ways. I'm talking about like when I come home from work and I'm like setting up my house to like feel good or whatever like that. I really am like in a place of like when you ask yourself what would you love, it's like celebration and abundance. It's just like I deserve these things. And so yeah, I'm always asking, I'm always in that space.
And as having this more expansive experience, can you share? I know you have a new love, a new relationship, and that's really lovely and delicious. What's another thing that you'd be willing to share?
Yeah. I have new hopes and dreams for my vocation.
Good.
And that blows my mind because I'm Girl Trek for life. I love Girl Trek. It has been a life's calling, a blessing, an identity. It's been so many things. But there was also a time where I thought, wow, you've achieved so much in this. Just be happy for that. And don't be trying to like twist fate and ask for even more and even more. And now I have asked for even more, even in my vocation. And I have received a lot of open doors. I don't want to share all the specifics of stuff, but I have like just a lot of open doors for me in my vocation area that are taking me down some paths that I'm just so excited about. Yeah.
Well, beautiful. So, as a mission driven leader, would you say that allowing yourself to want more and to have more, what impact has it had on the work?
That's a good question, Lori. Well, I think this is the power of Girl Trek. It's not just me. As every single woman expands her consciousness and awareness, which she does every day that she's out there taking a walk, she shifts something in the atmosphere around what's possible for herself, which shifts something around what's possible for the collective. So it's all of us. And I feel it so deeply. Like I get so much more than I pour into Girl Trek for sure. And we say this all the time. We're all the Harriets of our own lives. We're all equally out there leading. And for me, for the work, it has meant that the work has gotten more spiritual a little bit,
Hmm.
honestly. And it's always been spiritual because this is a Black women's healing organization, and we understand like that we walk in the footsteps of women who were spiritual warriors, and that that's what walking is. And I think it has deepened that understanding for me. It's deepened my understanding about what it means to be physically present in our bodies and what decisions we make from that place that are different than when we're disconnected from our bodies. And so it's really enhanced my understanding of the scientific power of what we're doing. And then it's also just, I think, emboldened me around, we've always had like big, expansive vision that we would touch almost all the women, 700 million Black women in the world. And it's confirmed that for me, that that's possible with the switch of a light. It's really anything is possible. Anything I love is possible for this world and for the movement and for the work.
I love that. And let me just make it clear, because I don't think we did that at the beginning, that the
Mhm.
mission of Girl Trek is to inspire Black women to dedicate themselves to at least a 30-minute walk 5 days a week. You will experience a physical change in your body such that you will have greater health. That has been my experience as a trekker, and that
Good.
has been the experience of the movement. And what I love about that, the walk, for me, is it has simplified what a spiritual experience can be. And it has reminded me of how many great people who have existed on this human plane who
Mhm.
did incredible things with
Mhm.
a walk.
Mhm.
And so I am so grateful for you, for the work that you've done, for you bringing it home. And in the tradition of my teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, who we call Thai, in the tradition of Jesus of Nazareth and the disciples who came after him, in the tradition of Harriet Tubman, who walked herself to freedom, you have continued that tradition by leading this community of women and being a light and an example for what is possible. And anything is possible. Big numbers are possible, big changes are possible, big impact is possible. And it's not separate and apart from
Mhm.
our personal dreams. We
Mhm.
get one life
Mhm.
and we must live it to the best of our ability. So, with that, what would you like to leave the people with, Vanessa?
Gratitude for you for stepping into your vision because you also were killing it already in your vocation box. And you had a ministry also helping people in the legal field. But I heard you say in that tent that I have a bigger vision for myself and I would love this one particular thing. And you went for it. And so I'm expressing gratitude for that because we need more teachers in this world. And we need more teachers who embody the lessons. And I think you're one of those people. So I've just been so grateful for you. And I just want to express gratitude that you asked your own self the questions, did the work, are vulnerable enough every single day to come out in these many different ways and platforms from email to podcast to share your learnings with others, and that you are modeling the mission in that way. Thich Nhat Hanh says it was one of the first ever quotes on Girl Trek's website. Our own life has to be our message. And I believe that you're just an embodiment of that. So gratitude.
Well, thank you so much. Well, if the people want to find you, they
Yeah.
can locate you at girltrek.org.
Yes.
Just go Vanessa at girltrek.org, and she's happy to interact with you. I've had wonderful experiences with Girl Trek. I'm so
Thank
happy and grateful that you are here in the world answering the call that Spirit has put inside of you. I'm so grateful that you said yes. I'm grateful that you continue to stay inside the question of what would you love? Because as you ask that question, life gets better for all of us. And that is true for each one of us. There is no private good. When we answer the call for our personal calling, it multiplies and we are spreading our ripple. Thank you for being a part of my life, part of my practice, and thank you for the work that you put out into the world. Continue to love on yourself and love within your organization. As I said, you can find Vanessa at girltret.org. And if you want to know more about Lori A. Harris, you can find me at my website, loriaharris.com, and always gratitudetrain.com. You can find me at gratitudetrain.com. Thank you so much for your service, and it's been my absolute pleasure. Thank you,
Thank you,
Vanessa.
Lori. Thank you.
So here's my invitation to you. Tonight, before you go to bed, rewind the day. Rewrite the day as Vanessa does. Review it. Roll it backwards. Notice what you are noticing and ask yourself, what did I do today that I absolutely loved? Was there some place in the day that I betrayed myself? Where are the places that I honored myself? And what would I love? This is the practice. This is how you unlock your life. And if you'd like some help and you'd like to go deeper, you're ready to stop waiting for permission, then visit loriaharris.com, where we explore these questions and you can do it in community. If you got something out of this episode, please share it with a friend, with at least one person who you think might benefit from hearing it, because that's how we spread the ripple. I'm Lori Harris. Thank you for being here. And remember, it's your time to shine. You're ready for the next step. And tell me, what would you love? Your life is waiting to hear your answer. Thanks again.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Unlock Your Life podcast. If you want more information on how you can transform your life and do it quickly, visit loriaharris.com. See you on the next episode of the Unlock Your Life podcast.